Thank you for joining us live with Miami's Community News. And we're going to be talking about mosquitoes with Dr. William Petrie and Monica Spence. Thank you for joining us, both with the Miami-Dade County Mosquito Control Division. Thank you for joining us. All right, so here we are in October. All right, tell us about mosquitoes, what we have to look forward to the next couple months.
Okay, so people sometimes think the mosquito season is only the summer months. It is worse. Mosquito numbers are higher in the summer months. It's wetter and hotter. But in Miami, we got mosquitoes all year round. It's an all year round. Miami subtropical. I mean, look at today. It's supposed to be fall, and you've got summer humidity out there. So the mosquito populations do switch. They change. The type of mosquitoes that we're dealing with. And typically what we'll move into now is a mosquito which likes to breed in storm drains. And we'll focus a lot on those. Unfortunately, it's another one that carries disease. So it is something important for us to do.
So, Monica, how long you been
Monique.
with, I'm sorry, Monique, how long you been with the Miami-Dade County?
Sure, since 2017.
Why did you join the Mosquito Control Division out of all the places in Miami-Dade County?
How did I end up there, right?
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, because of Zika, the epidemic that was going on in 2016, there was a resurgence with Mosquito Control Division. And me being a public relations professional and that tie-in with helping to educate and inform the public on how to deal with Zika and coming out of that, there was an opportunity there for me to take. And it has been, when I tell you, I have learned so much more about mosquitoes and the science behind it and the life cycle and everything else. It has really, really been a phenomenal opportunity.
And I'm glad that you brought up Zika. We're going to talk about that in a second. But a couple things. People have asked us several questions. One, can you get COVID from mosquitoes? And two, do mosquitoes carry the HIV virus?
You cannot get COVID from mosquitoes. And thankfully, mosquitoes do not carry the HI, the human immunodeficiency virus. Or if they carry it, they can't transmit it.
So, but with Zika, all right, this is one from a couple of years ago which caused you to join them. There was these mosquitoes were over on Miami Beach, if I have that right, and part of downtown.
Yes.
So why is it that you could publicly say, just don't go to the beach, but it's okay if you're 2 miles away or 5 miles away?
Well, no, that wasn't really the case either. Those were areas that CDC identified as focal points, as problem areas, because it was local transmission. Other areas were not recording that, but that doesn't mean to say it wasn't going on there. The mosquito responsible for Zika is all over Miami-Dade County. It would be described as common and abundant.
So sometimes when people call us, from out of town, hey, how's that, whatever happened down there? I say, oh, that's over yonder, all right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's not the case with mosquitoes, because over yonder could be yonder in your backyard.
Yes,
and your neighbor.
Absolutely. And there are, our surveillance section now, we have 320 traps now, and a whole team of lab techs now identifying mosquitoes. They're doing a real gangbusters job. And we are finding mosquitoes all over the county. We're finding new species. We're finding different species which have not been recorded from here before. So it just depends how much you look, Michael, how much you sample.
So Monique, what kind of questions do people ask when they call you up and they go, listen, what are some common things they ask?
A lot of times we get questions on what can we do to try to keep mosquitoes from biting us, right? We get those types of questions. And our biggest thing is our campaign that we've had since 2016, Drain and Cover. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. But that's probably one of the major questions. Another question that we get a lot of times is, why do they bite? What happens when they bite? How do they bite? So a lot of times we get questions pertaining to how the mosquito bites. And then a lot of other times too, we get questions particularly from kids, why do they bite me? And, which one bites? Because a lot of times people don't know that it's actually the female that does the biting and not the male. So we'll get questions about
Talking about
that
mosquitoes also?
Exactly. So those are just a couple of the questions that we do get. And then, of course, as of late, because of COVID, as Dr. Petrie mentioned early on, we have had the questions about, do mosquitoes transmit COVID, which they don't.
So one of the things I realized about the county, many departments have their own slogans. So, which is drain and cover.
Right.
Yes.
The animal services, God bless them. There is no option you must adopt. I think that's about it. Sorry if I got it wrong, Flora. All right. And each of the areas have their own thing. And I can see it adds enthusiasm the staff and for people to be able to do that because it catches on.
Right.
Right now that I'm thinking about what you're saying is I got to go through the walk at the house again.
Fight the bite, drain and cover.
Yes.
Fight the
yes,
bite, drain and
yes.
cover.
I mean, it's-
People really want to know, does it really matter on my property if it's gathering water, if I empty it, my next door neighbor doesn't do the same thing?
It does matter because that mosquito, and we're not talking about one here, the Zika mosquito, the yellow fever mosquitoes, right? That mosquito only breeds in that yard. It's not going to travel far. The literature would tell you that that mosquito travels only like 50 feet, 50 yards, 50 meters, okay? If they don't need to travel that far, they won't. If they only need to come to you to get blood there. So if you take care of them in your backyard, yes, if the backyard next door doesn't take care of them, then okay, yes, you could get spillover. But the point is these mosquitoes don't travel far, unlike other mosquitoes which can travel for miles. This particular mosquito doesn't. So you take care of your backyard, you're going to get less mosquitoes. And if your neighbor takes care of his backyard or her backyard, you're definitely going to get less.
So we know when there's a cumulative effort like litter, if you take
Yeah.
care of your front yard, the next one and the next one, it
Yeah.
matters. So when you mentioned about the mosquito coming over to bite you, how many times is that frisky mosquito going to bite me if I let him? Her. I'm
Her.
sorry.
Her.
I'm sorry. You're right.
How many times is she going to bite? As many times as she wants. And that's not meant to sound flippant. What the mosquito's doing is she needs to take a full blood meal in order to make her eggs. So she wants to take as much blood as she possibly can and still fly away, because that's pretty difficult. Since she now weighs a lot more than she did before. So depends on the mosquito, Michael. Some mosquito species, again, the disease ones, may bounce around. So they'll bite here and then there and there and there.
Are they
here.
looking for a favorite spot, or
No.
are they biting each one of those times?
No, every time you move, she's going to move. She's going to jump. If you try and slap her, she's going to jump.
She's nodding her head. She knows.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't even
it.
become a
Yeah.
PhD. You have your doctorate in what?
Monique's almost got a doctorate in mosquito biology now. So that's what some of them will do is bite you repeatedly because they're skittish. They move. So you might get a half a dozen bites before she fills up. The other thing about that is, and this is where the disease transmission comes in, is she may bounce from me over to Monique and then back from Monique to me. There are other mosquitoes, like the ones that comes out the Everglades, the salt marsh mosquito, completely opposite. It doesn't bounce around. Kamikaze, boom, right in, and it will just sit there. You can flick it. You can say, "Hey, what are you doing?" You can pull its wings off if you want to be mean. It'll just sit there until it gets a full blood meal.
So
Mosquitoes
Monique,
are smart. You just don't know. You have no idea. They are some smart.
if the female mosquitoes is full, right, blood, getting ready to lay her eggs at some point, if you were to squish a full one,
Yeah.
What's the circumference of it if it was on this
Like,
table?
what's your 10 cents? What is that?
A dime?
Okay.
The size, about
Yeah, if you really smack it, yeah.
And the whole goal, of course, is for the female to nourish her egg. So, she's going to do what she has to do to make sure she has that nourishment so she could take care of those eggs.
and mosquitoes too. So
Actually, though, there's a point there when people say how many times they bite. I think possibly what people are meaning too is, so two strategies. One type, the yellow fever mosquito will bounce around till it gets full. The salt marsh mosquito, no, one blood feeding it, right? But that's for one reproductive cycle. So she goes away, makes her eggs, develops the eggs and lays them. Then she can come back for another blood meal.
and how long do the females live?
That's a very good question. Nobody really knows the answer. 2 to 3 weeks.
So how many cycles of
So
eggs can they have?
So suppose it takes 5 days to a week to develop the eggs. And in malaria mosquitoes, it's a lot longer. It
So these things are
varies.
born, and within a couple hours, it sounds like they're already going to get ready to start breeding and laying eggs. Within a
They'll-
couple of days, a
They'll
week.
mate within the first day or two and then blood feed. Now, there is another way that you can tell how old mosquitoes are. With malaria mosquitoes, you can, using the microscope, you can dissect them and you can count the number of reproductive cycles they've gone through. Their ovaries leave a little bulge.
The ovaries in a mosquito.
Well,
Can you actually see them?
We're
Do
humanizing the mosquito
Sure,
again. We
in a
talked about that
microscope. You need a
before.
microscope, obviously.
you have a favorite mosquito?
Oh, I don't like any of them. I guess that's why I'm doing this job. But yeah, I suppose I still have, I was going to say feelings for the mosquito species I did my doctorate on. But I think the point about aging, we know from this Russian scientist who did this work many years ago, Detanova, that you can actually count the number of cycles she's gone through, so you can estimate the age. You don't know for exact.
Okay, so
and some mosquitoes here in Florida can overwinter. The females can overwinter.
so Monique, so if the little lady lives for a couple weeks,
Yeah.
and they lay eggs, is there an estimate about how many eggs they lay each cycle?
I think they're in the egg raft, or if I'm not correct, right? Dr. Petrie, it's like 150, more or less.
Yeah. So the ones who lay an egg raft, all
Right.
the eggs are laid together in
Right,
one,
collective.
and about 100 to 150.
And what percentage are females, more or less?
50-50.
Okay, and what percentage of them actually live to bite another day? To bite?
That is a very good question. What is the mortality at the larval stage? That's a really good question, because there's a lot of things going to feed on the larvae. They may not get enough food. They may not get enough nutrition. The water might dry up. That's a very difficult part of the biology of the life cycle to know, because it's so variable. But talking about the age of mosquitoes, to be fair, a mosquito egg is still a mosquito. Okay, it's not an adult flying around, but it's at least a potential mosquito, right? The eggs, not in the raft, but the eggs that are laid individually by the yellow fever mosquito, they can last for years.
So that's an interesting concept. So they lay eggs. They don't lay it in the water per se, but near water, right?
The ones that Monique mentioned, the raft, they lay directly on to water. Those eggs are not specialized. The eggs hatch almost immediately within a few hours or the day. The other eggs are highly, highly specialized to be able to withstand drying out, and they can sit for months and years even.
And so an egg, would you say, prior to it hatching, if you will, is the size of of what? How would we measure that? The size of a pinpoint or smaller?
Slightly bigger than that. It's cigar shaped, longitudinal.
Like a rice, like a
Smaller than a grain of
lotus-
rice.
Yes, like smaller than a grain of
And so
rice.
in that smaller than a grain of rice, that's where the eggs are in. They're in that, or is that one?
That's an
egg?
embryo inside there.
One.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
And there could be a lot of them inside that female when she lays them, a whole bunch.
Usually, like Monique said, like 100 to 150. When I used to actually have to count eggs or eggs being developed in the ovaries. Up to 150, yeah.
So
even
some eggs
200.
hatch right away, and some eggs take about how long to hatch?
What they do is they wait to be flooded.
It's
They-
amazing. They just sit there in this
They
suspense.
wait, yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that they can sit for a long time. Is it
Mm.
sort of like getting oatmeal? You don't put water in, it's good forever.
And actually, what is described in the books as problem eggs, even with those, not all of them will hatch at the same time. But nearly always, you'll get some of them will hatch and some won't, so that for the next rainfall episode, of a week away or a month away, there's still some other eggs. Also, she never lays all of those eggs in one place. Unlike a raft is laid one place. There's 100 eggs, bang.
And tell us why she's smart
But
enough
the
to do that.
But the other one, she's laying 3 eggs here, 4, 6.
And the places that they select are where it's likely that they're going to hatch. They know that.
They'll lay their eggs in containers, buckets, drums, kiddies' toys, even just a little cup this size. The little coffee cups there?
Yep.
I got about 100 in one of those.
Or a bottled water cap. Even.
Bottled
That's
water,
what we
yeah.
in our outreach
amazing.
is something that we tell people.
Yeah.
So I visit neighborhood fish farm on Southwest 45th Street. They sure would love if you would go shopping there. So they have open tanks.
Uh-huh.
So the mosquitoes get in, I guess, and they go near or to the water. But those mosquitoes are they food for tropical fish? Do the tropical fish like
mean take the adult mosquitoes? Or
the
larvae?
eggs when they lay eggs in there?
No, fish will take larvae. Fish and you mean the egg raft?
No, not really.
Doubt it. The main predator.
All right,
of
get rid of the
eggs-
mosquitoes. Right.
Main predator of the eggs is ants.
Right.
And ants will take the eggs.
Right. So there are a lot of plant nurseries all throughout South Florida, particularly down here in West Broward, and a lot of us enjoy going out there and just having a good time. And so, how about these guys that are working hard out there all day long? The sun, the sweat, all right, the long sleeves, the hats, and everything. They get beat up all the time by the mosquitoes, huh?
I would imagine so.
And what is it they can do, and us that don't do that so often, to limit the amount of biting that we have to subject ourselves
Repellent.
Yeah, definitely the repellent. I mean, they're covering themselves, which is great. But of course, utilizing that repellent and making sure that they're putting that on, and it just depends. There's certain types of repellents that work better than others. We have found scientifically ones that contain a substance called IR3535, which is found in Skin So Soft, which is a product by Avon. Also, DEET, making sure that the repellents have the substance in it to make sure it wards that off so the mosquitoes can't bite.
There's so many people like myself a little confused. Should I put that? Is it going to poison me? Am I going to get sick in order to keep away the mosquitoes?
No, these are EPA approved and tested. I personally don't like the repellents very much. But what you can do is you can spray them on your clothes or on a hat is quite a good idea. Spray it on a hat because they tend to buzz around your head. There are mosquitoes. Again, the salt marsh mosquito coming out the Everglades. It couldn't care less which repellent you're wearing. It's you can try whatever you want. Whoop, it's just going to.
So the repellent keeps them away. When they smell it or get close, they go away. But that in itself does not kill it because it's not a mosquito killer.
Correct.
They smell it, they go.
Yeah.
So let's say you're sitting on your patio, and here go the mosquitoes. Do they work? The Zappers, whether it's a contained one or the one that looks like a tennis racket. Monique?
No, they do not work. They have not been scientifically proven. What we utilize and our methods, we work particularly with things that have been proven. So we can't say that, in our communications to the public, we don't go out and say, okay, yep, you get that bug zapper and that's going to work, because it hasn't been scientifically proven. Our thing is, how do we help residents help themselves so that they can work and do what they need to do to try to keep mosquitoes away? And that messaging, again, with that drain and cover, drain any standing water and cover yourself between dawn and dusk, that has been proven to work for our residents because it's something that they keep top of mind. And
so
they
you
can
hear
practice.
the public information part there.
And in the last 2 years, that's the science part of it has become more and more important to so many of us.
So just a point on that, though. Zappers do work in the sense that they do kill. But is the mosquito going to be stupid enough to go to the zapper or come to you for a blood meal?
They're not going to the zapper.
Plus the fact zappers are non-discriminatory. They'll just kill whatever insects. So you're killing anything that comes.
And especially when it makes a lot of noise. Oh, there was my friendly butterfly. So what about folks that are out, working in the yard and they're sweating like crazy? Does sweat in and itself attract mosquitoes or other insects?
Yeah. But whether you're going to get bitten more if you're sweating profusely, I'm not so sure about that. Certainly if you've been exercising, you've been sweating, you've got scent, you've got an odor. Mosquitoes are definitely picking up on a scent. One of the things that they tune in is scent. Whether that's a bad odor or good odor is something that we don't know as to exactly what the mosquito prefers, exactly what she's preferring there.
So Andres is our producer over here. He has a question concerning blood. So let's hear it, Andres.
Yes, I do, ladies and gentlemen at home. I am the man behind the screen, so you won't see me, but you will hear me. Dr. Petrie and Mrs. Spence, a lot of the times when I'm in my backyard and I get bitten by mosquitoes, my mom tells me that I've got sweet blood. Is that true, or is that just, common myth that people say about mosquitoes?
I think if your mama says you got sweet blood,
You have sweet blood.
I'm not arguing with that, but it's a good question. it's not flippant. I think we don't know the answers to a lot of these things. Are some people more attractive to mosquitoes or not? It certainly seems to be the case. But whether it's anything to do with your blood type or how sweet your blood is, or I doubt that very much. I don't think mosquitoes are able to. They're smart, but they're not that smart. They're not going to tell what blood type you are. They're homing in on heat, body heat, and body odor. That's when they get close to you.
So in the old days, before there was, people would take vitamins that had a lot of onions in them, or the garlic, one of
Garlic.
the two, and it would be
Garlic, I
like
heard that.
terrible
Yeah.
smell. Are there things? Oh, we have 10 minutes left to see. Are there things that people can consume, eat, that will either attract or push away mosquitoes?
I'm going to leave that one to Monique, actually, because
Monique,
I
what do
don't
you
have a
think?
scientific answer to that.
No,
I
I
doubt
don't-
I
no.
doubt it very much.
Sorry, Dad, you didn't get it.
it.
So for people that are home watching this or walking around one of the big box stores, what are some of the good repellents that they ought to consider getting?
Sure, definitely. DEET, any ingredients that have DEET in them, that would be off. There's different degrees of off. But then also too, as I mentioned, the Skin So Soft Avon product, it has that IR 3535 in that. And those are the ones that, again, EPA, pretty much regulated. And those have seemed to work. What we do oftentimes too is we get questions about the natural elements. What are some natural products that people can actually use as well. So those as well, lemongrass, we have heard and have an understanding that works to a certain degree. But then also too, oil of lemon, eucalyptus. But if people do use that, they would have to use that a little bit, apply it a little bit longer if they were to use that. But those are some of the ones that we talked about.
So we know if you're going to go out in the sun, there's lots of different levels of sunscreen protection that you can have. So you're saying there's also different levels of repellent and protection.
With off.
Right,
yes.
right, with off, yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so lots of times I used to boat a bit. So it'd go, all right, when you're really slow, you got the mosquitoes, speed up a little bit, you're home free, right? So what would you suggest for people that are out on their weekend warriors in their yards, all right? They just love being out there, whether it's raking or cleaning or mowing. What are some of the things that they should do?
I would say the repellents with off are those ones that Monique mentioned. And as I said, one thing to do is you can spray it on your clothes. Obviously not on your fancy dinner jacket, but if you're working in the yard, spray it on your clothes and on a hat. That probably works better than anything. When you put it on your skin and you're sweating, you're going to have to reapply, repeatedly, which you don't have to do with your clothes.
I know I've told this story before, but I just love it. We've got a farm way down south, and so I go on the golf cart and with some friends. I go, "Can I go get some of the long ends?" I said, "Sure." I'm going to sit over here. I'm going to stay right over here in the sun. You go ahead and pick. And then they pull on the thing, and the mosquitoes just jump out on top of them. The mosquitoes like the shade, right?
Yes.
And they like that because of what versus the direct sunlight.
They get dried up very easily. One of the things that does kill mosquitoes is the desiccation. They dry up. But they don't like air conditioning, for example. It dries them up. So they tend to stay out of the sun, and they'll stay in the shade, and that's why they mostly bite at dusk to dawn. Of course, there's always exceptions, and the one that our biggest problem, our biggest challenge, Zika, dengue, chikungunya, yellow fever, mayara, the same mosquito. That one likes the sun. That mosquito likes the sun. Okay.
Monique, I'm so confused now.
And it likes biting during the day. It will bite during the day rather than at night, and it prefers the sun. That's the one that you want to be taking precautions against if you're in your backyard.
So let's say this time of the year, you go out in your yard and you're just standing there. If there's mosquitoes in the neighborhood, how long will it be before they find you?
If there's the ones in your yard, if they're close by, it's only going to be 5-10 minutes. Other ones, obviously, flying from distance, that's a different matter. But here we're talking about really domestic situation.
So and they go to a target because of what happens to their senses? What do they smell or hear or feel?
Remember, they have extremely good vision, not the type of vision that we have, but each eye is composed of hundreds of facets. So they can see, especially shapes and movement. So they'll see you from a distance. And then they have very highly sophisticated heat sensors. That's one of the most highly developed sensors that they have is for heat. And then scent. They have another set of organs for detecting molecules of scent. And that's when they home in on you and the body heat and the scent and everything.
So the mosquitoes and the cockroaches, they got it all figured out.
They certainly appear to, don't they?
They-
Smart.
So tell us what we should be doing next couple months to limit our mosquito bites, Monique.
Definitely continue to drain and cover. Drain any standing water that might be near your home. Cover yourselves, particularly as Dr. Petrie mentioned during the dawn and dusk hours. But also, too, if our residents are having some type of mosquito nuisance, contact 311. And what'll happen? That'll be a service request that'll be implemented. We'll come out, we'll inspect the area, and do whatever we can do to try to treat and try to find where that nuisance may be occurring. And we go ahead and try to rectify that. So drain and cover.
So drain and cover. There's over 300 traps you have out, and you can. It's what type they are and how many there are, and you typically know pretty soon if there's a real problem out there. They're distributed all throughout the county. You have trucks that go out occasionally to spray.
But trucks go out every night.
Every night they go out.
They're larviciding. They're killing the mosquito larvae, not the flying.
So we often wonder, how do we know if the CIA is doing a good job? It's because there are no bombings or whatever it is. But in between the time, we're saying, well, what are they doing? Right? They're actually stopping it from happening.
Right.
So often that, we had a great mosquito season, not many mosquitoes. That's because the staff there has been doing their job and trying to control that.
Well, it's most of what we do nowadays, what we attempt to do is preventative. So yes, you're right on that. There's two sides to it though. And again, this is the domestic side, container breeders in your backyard. You can do something, you can source reduction, you can remove the standing water, you can tip things over, stop that breeding. That really does help. The mosquitoes coming out of large areas, coming en masse in millions of them, there's nothing you can do about those. That's why you call 311.
One of the things we
tell us.
recognize when dealing with the county, I mean, we've had public works and waste management and the parks department, a lot of and animal services, that the county is really doing a great job in reaching out to people and caring about them doing something for themselves and for their community. And that includes dumping your water out, or taking the cats in and getting them fixed, or making sure you do your garbage in the right places.
There is another thing, Michael. It's so practical and it's so obvious, but that is screens, and screens in good repair. Screens on your windows and doors. So you protect yourself in the backyard. You got your repellent, and you're good. You've got no screen on the glass door or on the window. There are some mosquitoes, two in particular, and there's one called the southern house mosquito, and the reason it's called that is pretty obvious. They will come indoors and wait, and they'll wait till 2:00 in the morning, and then they can
Nice and sleep.
Do they go just like that? After all these years, you got it down. We're going to wrap it up here. Dr. William Petrie and Monica Spence, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Monique.
That was a female mosquito.
Female mosquitoes. All right.
The males sound different.
Okay, for being here, for what you do, and protecting all of us. Thank you very much for your time. Please come back again and bring the box of mosquitoes back again, and we'll get somebody to put their hand inside.
Do you mean Grant? Or?
Yeah, Grant has
go.
volunteered to
Do a
put his
blood
hand
feed.
inside there. And we appreciate your time. And let's look right over that camera and say, have a good day. Thank you.
Have a